Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Ben Simmons has been exposed by the Celtics.
And I'm Colin Cowherd. Toronto, disband the franchise. Speak for yourself on a Monday starts now. That may sound harsh. It's not harsh.
I don't know about disbanding the franchise. We'll get into that. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard and longtime NBA vet Dante Jones. Let's start in Cleveland, where the Cavaliers host Toronto with a chance to sweep tonight, thanks in large part to LeBron James, who put up a monster game against the Raptors Saturday, including a game winner that left LeBron pretty impressed with himself.
The level of difficulty of that shot, it is very difficult. Don't try it at home, Jeff. It's a picture floating around of me besides a little Tykes hoop with a saggy pamper on. And I probably was doing it back then, all the way up until now, being 33. So, it's not things that you dream about, that you get those opportunities. And I've been fortunate enough to just get a handful of those in some of the biggest moments, in my career.
All right, no doubt LeBron's been incredible so far this postseason, with the third most combined points, assists, and rebounds through 10 games, falling just behind Michael Jordan. Cowherd, can these playoffs vault LeBron past MJ?
No, I think playoffs and playoff success are great for stars. Superstars is a different ballgame. Your legacy's different, your standards are different. At this point, LeBron could score 70 a game. He loses in the finals in 5, it doesn't matter. He could be average in these playoffs. He beats Golden State, different ballgame. Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo wins a series, John Wall beats the Celtics. John Wall's got a different reputation. LeBron's the Beatles, man. We're talking about you got to have platinum on 3 more albums to get past the Beatles.
He's right in the middle of making Thriller. That's what this has been. This is Thriller. Every song has been a hit for 10 games. And so I disagree with you. I'm not going to simply evaluate this on championships. This is the greatest 10-game postseason stretch I've ever seen. And if they just make it to the finals based on expectations, I wouldn't have a problem if people started saying, you know what, he's got a case against Michael Jordan. If they win the championship over Golden State or Houston and people said he's better than Michael Jordan, I'd be right there with him.
He's got to win this championship to pass Jordan. And I think if he did win this championship, which I don't expect, and I won't hold against him if he doesn't, but if he could beat Golden State with this group of role players, and Kevin Love, other than these 2 games, has been a role player, then I think the narrative would sway toward LeBron, or at least among a lot of people, from LeBron to MJ. Anything short of that, look, this is still the Indiana Pacers, I know you're from Indianapolis, and the Toronto Raptors. Let's not make this, he's playing great. He's arguably playing at a level that's unprecedented. But it's still the Indiana Pacers and the Toronto Raptors. He's not in the West doing this.
Let's not disrespect the Indiana Pacers, because the Indiana Pacers want to be the worst matchup for anybody in the Eastern Conference, period. They play a level of basketball that is suited for the playoffs. So let's not do that. And number 2, the Toronto Raptors are arguably the second best or the third best team in the NBA this year. It could either go Golden State, Houston, Toronto. But Toronto has the second best record in the NBA this year. So they're not a bad team whatsoever. They're just bad matchups, and that's what playoff basketball is about. Now, LeBron James being better than Michael Jordan, that case is being slowly proven throughout these playoffs, because you said he wasn't a closer. You said he couldn't score the ball. He said he defers sometimes. And he's taken over basketball games. He's scored. He's also made people better. And he's made clutch shots. So what else can you say except the championship argument? And the championship argument says he has this record in the finals, but we don't count MJ's performances in the first rounds when MJ did not even make it to the finals. We just take his finals record, and he said he's won all the finals. So it's about what you like in life. If you respect it, well, I'll do this. If you have kids and you're going to teach your child how to play basketball, who are you going to teach them how to play basketball like? LeBron James or Michael Jordan? You're going to teach them how to just get a bucket, or you're going to teach them how to make people better? You're going to teach them how to drive, make shots.
You went too far. Damn it!
That is what you're going to teach your kid, to be unselfish, make big time plays, and to lead. But mind you, I think they both are. I think they both are the best two players in basketball ever. I don't think you have to pick one. I don't think you have to pick one to be the best.
You do get, though, there was a few years ago where it was just understood, Brady will never surpass Montana because Joe was 4 for 4. Then volume comes into it. And you're like, well, hell, Tom's going to the Super Bowl every year. I think we are reaching a point here where volume starts to surpass perfection. Jordan's 6 for 6. But you're getting to a point now, and this is why I think if LeBron goes to a third team, we all know this. He's going to blow them away in everything except the titles. So do you get to a point where if a LeBron went to a third team and still wins all these, Michael couldn't even make the playoffs on a second team. LeBron goes to a third and wins.
That's the old.
But my point is, we're getting into a volume play here.
I agree with you. I just want to say this, though. To me, Michael Jordan has one argument over the 6 for 6. And I think, in my view, Michael elevated Scottie Pippen and others better than LeBron does. But at the end of the day, and the last thing I would say is, Michael played in a more physical NBA.
Absolutely.
But what I'm seeing from LeBron James right now is it's the best basketball I've ever seen, and I don't care what era is being played in. These games he's closing out, the fact that the entire burden is on him and he's carrying this team, this is incredible stuff.
He's playing tremendous basketball. There's no question about it. But Michael Jordan dominated the NBA in a way that LeBron hasn't. Once Michael Jordan started winning, he denied every superstar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, Carmelo. He denied them championships. LeBron has not denied the other stars championships.
Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the greatest coach of all time denied people championships.
Phil Jackson was not the greatest coach of all time when LeBron
is the greatest coach of all time right now with 11 rings.
He was just a coach from the CBA when he started coaching Michael Jordan.
But he has 11 rings. He did it there, and he did it somewhere else. So he's proven his case to be the best of all time. He didn't just dominate with MJ.
Well,
he did it with somebody else.
Brad Stevens hasn't won anything, but we acknowledge he's probably the best situational coach in the league. So even if he doesn't win now, he's still great. Phil Jackson was really kind of unique academically the way you coached. It was less instincts and gut. It was more a real offense. I thought situationally, Phil was a difference maker back then.
Look, a lot of people say Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback they've seen. But when you talk about the GOAT, it's either Brady or Montana. And LeBron, he has 3 rings, that's close. To me, he has to get more titles.
One more.
Maybe one more. If if this was the one more,
but he has 5
that's
more years
huge.
to play.
I agree. I'm just saying he doesn't have to, he's not going to be perfect. He doesn't even have to have 6 or more than 6. But he does have to win a few more, I think, to get to where Michael Jordan is as the greatest.
This time of year brings us 2 things, graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad a balloon that will probably float away, ask yourself this: does my dad or grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in-store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, elsewhere in the East, the Celtics have surprised just about everyone. Will go for a sweep of their own tonight against Philly. After an impressive first round, Philly had sky-high expectations coming into the series. But the guy who sparked them against Miami, Ben Simmons, just hasn't been the same this round, especially in a couple of moments. Huge drop-offs across the board, 26-point swing in plus-minus. Whitlock, has Ben Simmons been exposed?
Yeah, I don't think, and again, this isn't me saying that he won't be a great player or he won't be an impact player, but basketball is about putting the ball in the hole, and he can't do that, not from outside the lane. And Brad Stevens is making a mockery of Ben Simmons' inability to shoot the ball, and it's taken a lot of the shine off of Ben Simmons. I mean, he looks like a bigger, stronger Lonzo Ball to me, and hell, Lonzo's got a better jumper.
Well, I don't think he's been exposed. I think he's been reminded he's 20. And I think what's happening now is a 20-year-old. Remember, he didn't go to March Madness. This is it. Like, this is the first time glares on playoff. He
can't shoot in March Madness either, Colin. He can't shoot.
By the way, Magic came into this league.
Not like this.
Well, I would say this. There are no other 6'10 points that strong, that play that kind of defense, that can ball handle like that and have that vision. We've fallen in love with Giannis. He can't shoot either. In this era, if he dominates the point physically, he's going to drop 17 a game. 13 assists. Shooters will want to play with him.
This is not. There's swept right now by an injury-riddled Boston team. 1 point. He's 1 point in a game.
He's a 20-year-old kid.
He's been reminded of his deficiencies. Yes, we've known he couldn't shoot. He's been dominating, or he's been performing at a high level throughout the season, not being able to shoot. He's just on a learning curve right now. And in the playoffs, it's about matchups, but it's about coaching. And the coach of the year, Brad Stevens, has done his job and tried to take him out of the game with their transition defense and making sure they crowd the paint and make sure he doesn't get easy things. And now he's trying to learn how to be effective in the playoffs. He's learning. This is his first year. He's not supposed to be perfect. He's not held to that stature. He's not held to an MVP caliber playoffs. He's trying to be the rookie of the year, and he's trying to keep getting better. Yes, but his job is not to score. His job is to rebound, make people better. His job is to distribute the ball. His job is not to score, and that's not what he hangs his hat on to be an effective basketball player.
We think point guards now have to be scorers. They weren't for the first 50 years of the league.
1 point. Show me the Bob Cousy 1 point game. Show me anybody.
He struggled.
Stockton's 1 point game.
Larry Bird, who was a scorer, he had 2 8-point games in his first trip to the finals.
Yeah.
So it happens.
4, 5,
Paul
6,
George
7,
just
8.
scored 5.
Okay.
Paul George
This
just
is
scored 5
8.
points.
This is 8.
No difference
and
between
this is
8 and
1.
1. There's no difference between 8 and 1.
They're both
I'm
bad.
telling you that.
Ben
now listen,
Simmons is not a scorer.
Exposed, as you know, exposed
is
is too strong. Exposed implies he's phony, he's fake, he's not that good. He is still going to be a great player. And look, if it weren't for J.J. Redick throwing that boneheaded pass, if it weren't for Ben missing a dunk, which was a fluke play, this is a 2-1 series. And I could argue they should have won game 2.
Yes.
This could easily be 2-1 the other way. It's not all on Ben. Yes, he has to improve his jump shot, but
Listen,
it's not all
if you
on
go
him.
to the great NBA players, some of it's DNA. I mean, Wilt was 7 foot and could have won track meets. Okay, Magic was a 6'9.5" point when the league had 6'1". Ben's 6'10", has literally Magic Johnson vision, ball handling skills like point guards. Some of his gifts are not coachable. So the stuff he's got to work on is incredibly coachable. Right. By the way, Isaiah Thomas, broken down body 5'8", ain't improving. His thing is, can you shoot jumpers in the offseason? Yeah, I can do that. Most legends have advantages you can't teach. LeBron's size and strength and speed, body fat, you can't teach that. His stuff's teachable.
This is like being an air traffic controller who can't see. And I was like, well, he can do all the other things. He knows how to work a keyboard, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're talking about 1 point, man.
It's one game.
Show me the superstar that has that on their resume in a playoff. Show me to me. Show me.
By the way,
Who?
Westbrook couldn't leave the arena without fighting with fans. That, to me, is a bigger concern. That's like temperament. Like, you're either wired to handle that or not.
He's a 20-year-old rookie, Jason. He's a 20-year-old rookie.
They have a scoreboard for a reason. It's a
hold on.
round basket. You put the ball through it. That's the game.
Who's the best point guard ever?
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson, the best point guard ever, dribbled out the clock. Dribbled out the clock in a finals game.
You know what that clock is? It's a big round thing with numbers on it.
You know what?
How does that happen?
It ain't more important than the scoreboard.
It happens to great players.
He only took 4 shots that game. Like, he prioritized more. I respect that about him.
froze.
Because he prioritizes the game in itself, not just one facet of it. And he tried to do too much in that game, and it's a learning experience. It's not just about he wasn't trying to score.
Look. He's been
0 for 4. He didn't shoot. It wasn't 0 for 20. He needs to shoot
We
more.
sit here and talk about Lonzo Ball and Magic Johnson trying to put him in the rafters. We tried to put Ben Simmons, again, we've heard it from LeBron. LeBron, he's the next guy. He's the next LeBron James. We've heard it from you, Colin. He's going to replace LeBron James. You can't do that scoring 1 point in a damn basketball game. You can't do that if you can't shoot. The game is very simple.
No. It wasn't 1 point in a basketball game. It was 1 point in the playoffs. It was 1 point
Yes.
in a playoff game. So that's different than a regular season game. So LeBron James didn't have that measuring stick in his rookie year because where was he at?
That's right.
So
He didn't even
make the playoffs. So he led his team. He led his team. He led his team to a home court advantage in the playoffs and had 1 point in one game in 48 minutes. We cannot judge him off 48 minutes.
He's also
48 minutes.
And my biggest problem with that is that he was 0 for 4. I think Ben does need to shoot more. If he had shot 8 times, 10 times, 12 times, he's going to score. He'd have more than 1 point.
He bounced back. And he scored.
Yep,
He bounced back
and melted down.
He bounced back. But you're not judging him
He didn't
on
score
on the winning of the game. You're just saying the 1 point.
8-8, he almost got a triple-double.
And some critical turnovers and errors. But, who's counting?
Hi, welcome back. Dante Jones back now, the founder of the big lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's return to the NBA where the Cavs, Celtics have absolutely dominated their opponents so far, despite some serious hype for the Raptors and Sixers coming into this round. But as usual, top-seeded Toronto absolutely melted under pressure from LeBron. Philly's youth has come into focus. Some late-game blunders cost them games. They could actually won a couple of these puppies. Whitlock, who should be more embarrassed by their series?
I think the Philadelphia 76ers, because Joel Embiid started out the series talking about we don't need anybody, our time has arrived, we can do it now. They got full of themselves, and here's a beat-up Boston Celtics team with 2 of their best players sidelined for the entire season, and they're making a mockery of the Sixers. I think Brett Brown, the coach, looks bad. We just talked about Ben Simmons looking bad. This is an embarrassing performance from some young kids that got out over their skis.
I think Toronto looks embarrassing. They've maxed out. They've peaked. This is it. Like they literally changed their offensive philosophy. They don't have cap space to go get, this is it. I mean, when I look at Philadelphia, I'm like, yeah, they could get a long wing shooter. Redick's probably too expensive. He'll leave. This is the beginning. Isn't Philadelphia exactly where they should be? Messing up late playoff games. The kids are really talented, but are like, the kids screwed up the end of the game against the veterans. That's what happens in the playoffs.
They're getting beat by kids, too. Jaylen Brown.
Well, Al Horford, Brad Stevens. By the way, these guys have been there before. Jaylen Brown was in a playoff performance last year. Terry Rozier's been in a playoff series. Philadelphia is just the young kids that walk into the Y, and the game's really fun. And then at the end of the game, you're like, they don't know the clock. They're screwing up. I'm okay with what Philly's doing.
Yeah, Philadelphia's inexperience and maturity is their factor, coaching-wise and player-wise. The adjustments haven't been made in the playoffs to where they're supposed to. They've made some mistakes before halftime and closing out at half. The kids have just made some blunders when they weren't supposed to, and they're learning and they're getting better on game-by-game basis. But Toronto, as you said, has peaked. They have the wrong matchup for them, and they just can't beat this team. 9 consecutive losses to the same team. I mean, mentally they're fragile.
You wouldn't be surprised tonight if Philly beat the Celtics by 5. You'd be shocked if this veteran team beat Cleveland tonight. Wouldn't you be shocked?
One team's playing Godzilla, and the other team is playing,
But Boston has experience, too.
Yeah,
so,
they do, yeah.
So Terry Rozier has been to the conference finals before. And Jaylen
Al
Brown has been
Horford
to
won
the
60
conference
games in Atlanta. These
Al
guys have
Horford has
experience.
won.
These Raptors are an embarrassment, okay? Whitlock, have you ever seen a bigger bunch of frauds in the Eastern Conference? These guys in Game 1 vomited all over themselves in the fourth quarter, choked away a 10-point lead, losing overtime, and LeBron's laughing at them. J.R. Smith's hitting 3-pointers, looking at the bench and being like, it's over, guys. They crush in Game 2. They win Game 3. The Raptors are who we thought they were. I can't believe I fell for these guys. They had the Cavs in the perfect spot, okay? LeBron's tired, that exhausting 7-game series against your Pacers. Toronto rested, the best bench in the league. DeMar DeRozan can make threes. Everybody was excited, and LeBron has embarrassed them. Drake is not going to show up to games next year. That's how bad it's been for Toronto.
LeBron James is Superman, and we're acting shocked that Toronto's not kryptonite. And we just talked about it. It's the greatest stretch of playoff basketball I've ever seen. They're dealing with that, and the Philadelphia 76ers are facing a beat-up kid coach who's clowning them.
By the way, Indiana took LeBron 7. Okay, Toronto is going to get swept.
They haven't taken him 7 yet. And that's 3 years. If you had 3 years to try and figure this equation out, not just one serving size. You've had multiple times to find out whether it was the conference finals, whether it was second round last year, whether it's second round year this year too, to be able to figure this out.
Do the Sixers remind you a little of Kobe and Shaq early when they got swept by the Jazz? Remember Kobe throwing up air balls in the postseason?
Paul Malone and John Stockton.
Right.
Who's on that Boston
Well,
team?
that's okay.
Let me ask you this though. Okay,
An emerging superstar.
Okay, let's say the Sixers.
Emerging superstars on that other team.
Let's say the Sixers and Raptors both lose tonight. What do the coaches say after each game? Brett Brown's like, fellas, step one. We're step one.
Right.
Okay, we lost. Say they lose close tonight. We lost 3 games we could have won. Step one. What is Dwayne Casey saying? You know what he's saying? Hopefully I'm back next year.
Yeah, no question about it. They're going to get blamed. Dwayne Casey's had his bite at the apple several times against LeBron and can't get it done. I still contend Philly talk more smack coming into this. I'm not shocked that Godzilla is letting fire out of his mouth and burning up Toronto. Every Godzilla movie's the same. That's what he does.
Canadians don't talk trash.
They're too polite.
Let's be honest about it. That's not going to ever happen.
This is the Speak for Yourself podcast. I'm Jason Whitlock. And before the show moves along, I want to tell you today's show is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring, posting your position to job sites, and waiting for the right people to see it? ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply to your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find your next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just 1 day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/speak. That's ZipRecruiter.com/speak. ZipRecruiter.com/SPEAK. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Now back to the show. Welcome back to the show. Jason McIntyre is back. We're joined now by longtime NFL coach Rob Ryan. Let's move to Pittsburgh, where Big Ben is still talking about his newest teammate, rookie quarterback Mason Rudolph, who the Steelers just drafted in the 3rd round. Needless to say, Ben still doesn't sound very happy about the decision.
I was surprised when they took a quarterback because I thought that maybe in the 3rd round, you can get some really good football players that can help this team now. And nothing against Mason. I think he's a great football player. I don't know him personally, but I'm sure he's a great kid. I just don't know how, backing up or being the 3rd round, who knows where he's going to fall in the depth chart, but helps us win now.
Cowherd, you got a problem with Big Ben's attitude.
No, I don't get this. So Michael Jordan had coaches fired. LeBron's had coaches fired. Magic Johnson had coaches fired. In the NFL, if Aaron Rodgers or Big Ben are like, yeah, I wish you'd give me a heads up on firing one of my coaches or my drafting, we eat these guys up. Timeout. There's no other Big Bens on the market. There's no other Aaron Rodgers on the market. Otto Porter of the Washington Wizards a marginal NBA player can hold an NBA franchise hostage. Pay me or I'm gone. Big Ben's like, our defense gave up 75 points in 2 games against Blake Bortles. We could use some linebackers and corners. I think he's got a point. I didn't understand the Steelers draft. They took a receiver. They're loaded at receiver. They took an offensive lineman. They got 2 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line. They need linebackers. They need corners. They couldn't stop at the end of the year Cleveland. They couldn't stop Baltimore. They couldn't stop Blake Bortles twice. They couldn't stop Houston with Tom Savage.
Last year, Big Ben went on radio. You know, I'm thinking about retiring. I got to think about retiring every year. And so the organization, oh, you're going to think about retiring? We better get a quarterback in here. And now he's acting shocked. This is why you don't write checks that you don't plan on cashing. Don't open your mouth and start talking about retirement. Big Ben looks immature here. He looks like a wide receiver here. He looks like part of the problem than the solution. Get on board with your coaching staff and your organization. Don't go out here running your mouth last year in a power play move, threatening retirement if you don't want the organization to call you on it. And they just did with Mason Rudolph. He looks silly. And I'm his biggest fan. He played the Mid-American Conference. I've loved the guy. I've defended the guy. He looks like an idiot here.
No, I agree. I mean, here's a guy, why so sensitive, brah? I mean, really, honestly. Like, give me a break. They drafted a guy that's going to help the team, and he did mention retirement. He gets banged up. He sits in the pocket like no other quarterback because he's so big. This is a good football player. And who knew the GM made a promise to him? Well, the GM never knew a first-round talent's going to be there in the third round. I mean, so I think this is a great pick for the team, for the franchise, which has had great success with guys before. They drafted Cam Hayward when they had 3 All-Pro D linemen. Why would you do that? They can't win now. Well, he's their best defensive player now, and he's a perennial Pro Bowler. They drafted Hines Ward, who had to sit for a year as a receiver in the 3rd round, ironically, the 3rd round. He worked out pretty good. So I think this is one of the franchises that always has the right answer. They get the right players. Homegrown talent. They believe in their players and they believe in their system. And this guy was available, so they drafted him.
By the way, when Shazier got hurt, it wasn't the same defense, though. I mean,
no, you're right.
I mean,
absolutely.
That's what I.
Oh, no question
I
about it.
think Big Ben thinks, listen, I'm dropping 45 against the Jags defense,
right, but how many third rounders are going to help that defense?
That's a great point.
Right away. You're saying, well, you're going to help right away. Boy, those third rounders, they're hard to hit like that.
Like a 3rd round pick's putting you over the Patriots all of a sudden. But their 1st round pick was a linebacker, Terrell Edmonds, a kid from Virginia Tech. Very good player, could start from day one. And, they lost Martavis Bryant in a trade, then they drafted a receiver, which helps Big Ben. I don't understand how a 36-year-old veteran, he won a Super Bowl, your guy, is trying to control everything suddenly at this stage in his career. Why shouldn't he just focus on, what the offense looked awful against Jacksonville? Well, 21-0 right out of the gate. They fell behind big early. Maybe worry about what you can control, Ben, that offense. We'll handle the defense. We'll worry about your successor. You just focus on the offense.
How about this? What is interesting here is we're seeing Brady now have this little strife, right? This is about the 4th year in a row. Big Ben has just taken public shots. He's smart enough to know this is going to play nationally. I mean, I don't know if it's Tomlin, GM. He has taken public shots on the organization for 4 years.
And you know what? He might be the problem. More than Tomlin, more than Antonio Brown. He may be the person who's setting the immature, unstable tone in Pittsburgh. Not Todd Haley, not Antonio Brown, not Mike Tomlin. It might be the quarterback.
I thought you liked it.
I do, but not when he does dumb stuff.
So one of the Steelers' biggest rivals, the Ravens, who just drafted a young quarterback of their own in Lamar Jackson, which appears to have Coach John Harbaugh excited, saying the team is, quote, in the laboratory, coming up with schemes for Jackson, who is slightly more athletic than current Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco. Whitlock, should Flacco be worried at all about his starting quarterback gig?
I think he should be worried about a quarterback controversy because I think it's already began. And they're in the laboratory devising plays. To me, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, they're going to try to use him at receiver and try to get him on the field early. But I think the media, and particularly the woke media, is going to jump on this and play the race card and push the Lamar Jackson narrative. And I think it's going to get complicated for Joe Flacco and that organization very quickly. Yeah, I think he should be worried about his job.
The one thing I would say, I always felt he was more project than prospect. I think you take prospects in the 1st round, mostly in the 2nd. Then you can go some projects. You're not paying him a ton of money. I don't think he or Josh Allen are ready to start. Now, if it was Rosen, Darnold, even Baker Mayfield, who I don't love, I think they're experienced enough and ready to start. There is part of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson that I think even they would acknowledge they're not quite ready. So I don't feel there's an urgency. Now, to your point, that's the avalanche of Twitter that's real. It's a real component. I will also say this. The best year Flacco ever had was his last contract year. It is his last contract year. He may be, in a way, this may make us get the best Flacco since that year in the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, shoot, you look at both those guys you mentioned, Josh Allen and Jackson. Both those kids, to me, have great upside. Like they're going to be with teams that, to me, they have great upside for a starting quarterback. When will it be? It might be next year for both teams. I mean, look, the offense with the Ravens was terrible. I mean, it honestly was. When you average 5 yards of completion, you might as well throw a lateral out there because that's all you're getting. And that's what Flacco did last year with their offense. So I look for this guy to have every opportunity to be the guy. And maybe he doesn't have to wait for a third down like Randall Cunningham had to when my dad would take Jaworski off after first and second down and put Cunningham in. But I have a funny feeling this kid's going to be a factor in this team.
I like what you just said, because remember, John Harbaugh is essentially coaching for his job. He has one playoff win in the 5 years since winning the Super Bowl. So it would be smart, would it not, to put Lamar Jackson in some surprise packages? It's going to be tough to plan for a 4-3 quarterback. This guy's a blur. And I think that would be a smart move by Harbaugh. To your point, Whitlock, remember, this is a woke media that went after Ravens ownership for the handling of the Ray Rice situation. So they already kind of have a strike one against them. If Lamar Jackson looks good, you're right. I do think they're going to be calling for Lamar to go over Flacco.
Colin Kaepernick, people in San Francisco were tired of Alex Smith. And Michael Vick, when he broke into Atlanta, they wanted to see Michael Vick. When you get these wildly dynamic backups and you're 4-4 after 8 weeks and in third in your division, media or not, you go to a stadium, people want to see the backup quarterback. And Lamar is going to do some stuff in preseason, which those local TV stations are going to show over and over on a loop, and you're going to be like, Flacco's dull, the kid's not.
And Joe Flacco has never been great. There's always been like a tolerance of Joe Flacco, never a celebration of Joe Flacco.
That's the truth.
And so he'll be on a short leash.
Welcome back. Chris Broussard, Dante Jones back. Let's move to Salt Lake City, where the Warriors took a 3-1 series lead over the Pelicans last night, getting an electric performance out of the Hampton Five lineup of KD, Steph Curry, Klay, Draymond Green, and Andre Iguodala. Meanwhile, the Rockets took a 3-1 lead of their own with yet another dominant W over the Utah Jazz. Whitlock, who's been more impressive, Golden State or Houston?
Easy for me. The Rockets. They went to Utah and blew them out. Utah's one of the toughest places to play in the NBA. This is easy. Chris Paul, the way he's performing, they're not even really knocking down threes. They're actually playing defense for a change.
Time out. Houston got a break. So Houston opens with the best team they could face, Minnesota. Can't shoot threes. Can't shoot threes. Then they get Utah, whose best three-point shooter, Joe Ingles, is sort of a defensive liability. This has been great for Houston. If you could have picked teams, it'd be like, okay, give us Minnesota, who's athletic with a big but can't shoot a three. Then give us Utah with a rookie shooting guard, and outside of Joe Ingles, not really a three team. But Golden State is throttling a team that humiliated Portland. That Portland series was an underdog sweeping another team. These games are over.
Utah didn't humiliate OKC.
Right.
They beat them in 6.
They humiliated them.
Look, I don't want to take anything from the Rockets because they have been tremendous. But if I had to pick, I would go with the Warriors because, to me, they're facing a better team. Utah is a great team, but they got one dynamic offensive player, and he's a rookie. That's all you have to worry about. In New Orleans, you got Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo, and Drew Holiday are all all-star caliber players.
Yes.
And so that's a lot more to handle. And you're arguably your best player, your second best player, Steph Curry. He's just working his way back from injury, missed one of the games. So I think that they've overcome more obstacles.
You don't like Golden State.
It's not that I don't like Golden State. Alvin Gentry's running the same system as Golden State. They're playing themselves.
Well, let's put it together.
Personnel.
True story. Impressed by Houston because Houston did go, like as you said, go into to Utah and pull 2 decisive wins, and they did it on the defensive end. They came out and punched them in the mouth and decided defensive tone to a defensive team. And I didn't think they could evolve in that way. I didn't think they prioritized defense as they did. They held the team under close to or under 90 points both games. They came out with a mission to defend and show the world that they can win games by not outscoring teams, and that's what they did.
Since when were you impressed with Utah? I didn't hear you bring up Utah all regular season.
Here's what I thought, Colin. Here's what everyone thought. When Utah won a game in Houston, Mike D'Antoni has shown back up, and there's going to be a problem. And all of a sudden,
that was Dante saying that.
No, I said that because I was impressed by a young team that wasn't supposed to win on Houston's floor.
Right.
But then that young team also has a enormous home court advantage that most people can't play in with the altitude and their home court fans. It's tough.
Now, as we are seeing, it's like they're taking defense seriously. They stepped it up a level, and Utah got their attention. And I think today we feel more confident that the Houston Golden State deal is going to be a very good competitive series. I feel more confident about Houston not winning, just being competitive and having a chance to win.
Anthony Davis is a real player. I mean, he's
a superstar.
He's a Hall of Fame level talent eventually. And Golden State is just, and by the way, Golden State's got layers. They're great defensively. They can play small. They can play bigger. They can be physical. Golden State is just sleeping and crushing people. Last 2 years.
Their versatility offensively is incredible.
Lord.
I mean, yesterday it was a mid-range clinic with Kevin Durant. That's why Andre Iguodala said it reminded him of Michael Jordan. He was hesitant to make that comparison, but that's what it was. It was a dribble or two and going up with the mid-range shot. Houston, Chris Paul has brought a mid-range attack to their arsenal. But for the most part, it's still in the paint or the three. I think Golden State's more.
But it's not impressive. Golden State's not impressive because that's the team that they are. They are dominant. They are a great team. They're a championship-level team. It's not like it's the Utah Jazz or it's the Philadelphia Sixers that, Ben Simmons hitting mid-range jumpers, hitting threes now. They are the best team in basketball. This is what they do. Kevin Durant does that on a nightly basis. He is top 3 in the game right now. He knocks mid-range jumpers out. He can go to the basket. He can shoot threes.
But you're criticizing because they're great. Golden
great.
State is the only dynasty in NBA where we're kind of like, that's just what they do.
We judge them in the finals.
We embrace Shaq and Kobe.
I'll give you that, but
yeah, because Kevin Durant went over there after they won a championship. Let's don't forget that.
After they lost that.
After they won a championship. All right, to a team that already got bounced from the playoffs, the Bucks, who are looking for a new head coach and reportedly will interview Spurs assistant Becky Hammon, which would make her the first woman to interview for a head coaching job in NBA history. Cowherd, what's your reaction?
Well, if I owned or ran the Bucks, I'd interview 12 people. Why do I have to interview everybody for the head coaching job? She's the 4th assistant coach for the Spurs. What if I want to interview her so I find my coach and I get my number 1 assistant? I mean, when you interview people, they're interviewing not just the coach. I want to interview my top assistants. And I want to see what Becky Hammon, if she sees the world differently. I mean, the Spurs have a history of being great in overseas scouting. I want to pick her brain on a variety of topics. I want to get some of the sauce from San Antonio. I want to see a woman's perspective. I want to see how she deals with people. And frankly, can I interview Becky Hammon? Because if the first coach I hire doesn't work, she may be. I think half the people they interview are in case the first coach doesn't work.
Well, more than likely the first coach won't work for Milwaukee, but
they got some talent.
They do, but they keep going through coaches. Listen, I'm happy for women in terms of opening up people's minds to the possibility of women can do everything. I'm all for that. I would prefer, if we're going to go this route, though, Dawn Staley. How come she can't get an interview? Well, she's actually proven that she can head coach teams at a championship level. Why can't Gino Auriemma? And again, I know he's not a woman, but I would like to see Becky Hammon go. She had a chance to coach the men's team at Colorado State. I would have liked to seen her do that.
But hold on,
instead of immediately.
She has experience at this
4
level.
years experience.
At this 4 years of experience at this level.
With the Spurs.
Right, with the Spurs, and she's highly regarded by her peers, by the people in that organization. She gets high marks, and they say that she sees the game differently. She has a great basketball mind. So yes, to your point, they're interviewing people for their staff, but they also have to create a culture over there in Milwaukee. They have to stop hiring coaches with different characteristics that they fall in love with early on. They have to establish something and then build from there. And I think with Becky, you get that either the head coach or the lead assistant. You get somebody that can actually help and teach you some things from a successful organization.
That's what I think. I think she sees the world perhaps differently. That's why I'd interview some old coaches, some young coaches, a female coach. You're just trying to get new ideas in the door.
For Dawn Staley, I mean, it'd be nice if she does get an opportunity in the future, but that is college. And if you look at most of the guys being interviewed for all the jobs, they're not college coaches. They're guys from the NBA, they're assistants who may have never been a head coach anywhere. The Spurs coaching tree is hot. Ime Udoka's been mentioned for some
Atlanta
jobs.
guy.
James Borregia, he's going to be interviewing in Milwaukee as well. So to learn for 4 years in San Antonio is great. I don't know for a fact, but I doubt she gets the job. But this is good because when other jobs comes up, she will be a regular interview now and eventually
I
probably
legitimately do not know the answer to this. Do fourth coaches in the NBA normally get interviews? That would be one.
No.
And then,
but the Spurs are a little different. The Spurs are a little different.
has their fourth coach been getting interviews?
They got 2 other coaches getting interviews.
No, I know.
Udoka
Are they the
and
fourth?
Borregia. No.
Now, again, we went through the counting earlier.
No.
8 being 1. And then I just want to add.
In that case, I was right. This one, you're right.
And now I just want to. Brad Stevens right now looks like the best coach in the NBA, and he came straight from college. So
He came straight from college, but it's different. It's different with Dawn Staley. She has to coach at this level and coach men. That is a big thing. It's not that she's a woman, but you have to coach men. I wouldn't say Gino would be at the same disadvantage as Dawn because coaching men is a total different. It's not
By
better
the way,
or worse.
a lot
it's
of this
different.
is respect for Popovich. I mean, Belichick, Matt Patricia got a head football coach. If you walked into a football facility and saw Matt Patricia with the beard, he's wearing the Roger Goodell anti-T-shirt, hats on backwards, he looks like a grad assistant in college. The bottom line is, though, Belichick, it's like, ooh, can we hire Matt Patricia because we get some of Belichick's genius? Some of this is respect to Popovich, that people want inside the doors of the San Antonio sauce and secrets.
And you brought up Brad Stevens. Look, obviously, he is a tremendous coach, but he's the first college coach to have real success in a long time in the NBA. So they're all looking for that next guy, but you don't. It's a
Your
crap.
favorite Billy Donovan is not.
Yeah,
his
Billy's
job
struggling.
over
He was a great college coach.
that's more Westbrook. Welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to NASCAR, where 90-year-old Herschel McGriff became the oldest person ever to race in a NASCAR event. He also played the national anthem on the trombone right beforehand. Cowherd, how impressed were you by McGriff?
He's 90. I'm 50. I race home every day to take a nap. After doing television, I'm blown away. First of all, he looks amazing.
He looks very good for 90. I want to check his birth certificate. I did hear that he used his turn signal very well, and they did let him take a pee break.
Come on.
All right, to the NBA, where the Cavs and the Celtics both have a chance to close out their second-round series tonight. Cowherd, who's more likely to get it done, Cleveland or Boston?
A coach is always limited. You know, a guy can dribble the ball off a shoe. He can do a Ben Simmons. You can be the greatest coach in the world. Players have to hit their shots. LeBron has more control than a coach.
Yeah, LeBron has destroyed Toronto. Toronto's been humiliated. I would imagine Toronto players are already thinking about their golf games, their vacation homes, their wives.
Brett Brown could make an impassioned pregame speech that, guys, we should be up 2-1. You could get a really good performance from Philadelphia tonight. I don't think you'll get a passionate performance by the Raptors.
Yeah, I think if I'm Philadelphia, I don't want to go out in a sweep. So I think their players will be desperate. I think Toronto's players are like, we ain't coming back from 3-0. We might as well start our vacation. You know, summers and springs aren't long here in Canada anyway. Let's enjoy it as soon as possible. And so, yeah, I expect LeBron, he's on this run. I expect him to get 40 tonight, and the Cavs to win by 5 or 6 points.
Come on, Sixers, make it interesting. Give me one more good day of Eastern Conference basketball. We'll see you tomorrow.